Number 8. Mummified feline friends. Cats are typically known for their captivating and cute faces, but what archaeologists in 2018 found was far from being cute. While digging through the tombs of ancient Egypt, not only did the team discover the typical mummified pharaohs, but also found their mummified pets. In 2018, a team of archaeologists in Egypt excavated a 4,500-year-old tomb close to Cairo. While it's already established that the pharaohs were buried with their dear ones around, with tombs often including servants, favorite items, and anything else they expected to need in the afterlife, they were taken aback when they found dozens of mummified cats. What was shocking wasn't that the people of that time had chosen to mummify cats, it was the number of cats that was jaw-dropping. Did the ancient Egyptians love their cats so much that they wanted to take several of them along with them to the afterlife? We can now assume that they did. The tomb also held other testimonies to uncover the ancient Egyptian love for felines. The team found 100 gilded statues of cats and also a statue of the ancient cat goddess herself, Bastet. According to the Ministry of Antiquities of Egypt, the tomb belongs to the 5th dynasty of the Great Egyptian Kingdom. It was discovered in Saqqara, which was previously the location of the ancient city of Memphis. There have been tales of cats being worshipped in ancient Egypt, but according to expert Antonietta Catanzariti, who was the curator of Smithsonian Sackler Gallery exhibit Divine Felines, Cats of Ancient Egypt, although they did consider the creatures divine, they weren't really worshipped. Instead, cats were actually studied. Their behavior was examined to create images of gods and goddesses based on them. If you look at other deities of the era, you'll find references to several other animals as well, such as crocodiles, ibises, and cattle. So if the cats weren't worshipped, why were they mummified? It's suspected that like anything else found in the tombs, the mummified cats were meant to accompany their owners into the afterlife. It was actually a fairly common practice, with cats likely being bred specifically for this purpose. Number 7. Massive Animal Tomb. Before the discovery of mummified cats in Saqqara, another necropolis or massive tomb that was determined to be roughly a millennia old was discovered there, which held the remains of over 1 million animals. This massive graveyard dedicated to the ancient Egyptian god Anubis once accommodated up to 8 million corpses of jackals, dogs, and other animals. The remains were well preserved because all the animals were mummified. No matter what size or species they belonged to, each animal was meticulously embalmed and buried in the tomb. However, the massive number of the animal remains poses a huge question. Why 8 million? Even if you look at the historical practices of animal sacrifices, it is highly unlikely you will find a burial ground with numbers of corpses this large. Researchers spent years studying the catacombs in Saqqara, and based on their findings, we may finally have an answer. The tomb was dedicated to Lord Anubis and mostly contained remains of puppies and dogs. According to research, the crypt was dug sometime around the 4th century BC. After studying the spine-chilling remains of the animals, the team found that some of the animals may have been a few days or even hours old when they were killed and mummified. The dogs and pups may have been bred in large numbers in puppy farms. They were later made into mummies and sold off to pilgrims who offered the mummies to gods and goddesses. With reference to the above case, the animals were offered to Anubis. Anubis is a deity with the head of a jackal, and he is the god of both the afterlife and mummification. Perhaps this is why the mummified dogs were a significant offering to him. The site was first discovered in 1987. It is believed that many mummies might have been removed previously. While some were stolen by grave robbers, others disintegrated. Many of the animal remains were also used as crop fertilizers. The discovery had also uncovered a bit of an ancient scam. After scanning the mummies, it was found that most of them contained incomplete remains of animals, and some of them were even found completely empty. Allegedly, the embalmers wanted to pocket bigger profits by selling fake mummies. Number 6. Yuka the Mammoth. In 2010, when a group of Siberian tusk hunters from Yuka village headed out for a hunt, they had no idea about the ancient biological marvel that was waiting for them. Yuka, a woolly mammoth, was found near the mouth of the river Kondratyevo in Siberia. She was named Yuka, a popular Japanese girl's name in reference to Yuka, the village she was found near. The mammoth was estimated to be between 6 and 11 years old when she died. The 39,000-year-old remains are touted as the best preserved mammoth in the history of paleontology. Yuka survived in such pristine conditions because she was trapped in the permafrost for such a long period of time undisturbed. According to researchers, Yuka might have fallen in the water or maybe got stuck in a swamp. She couldn't free herself and eventually died there. Since she froze after drowning, the lower part of her body had been preserved in the ice for a longer time. Her legs, jaw, and tongue were extremely well preserved compared to the rest of her body. However, Yuka's upper torso and legs were exposed to the surroundings, and so those parts did not survive and were probably eaten by predators soon after her death. The scientists studying Yuka's carcass were even able to extract blood from her body. This was the very first time that scientists were able to gain access to such an amazing biological asset. After examining her blood, they found that mammoth blood had natural antifreeze properties, which probably helped them to survive in extremely cold environments. How amazing is that? Since October 2014, Yuka has been on display in Moscow and is considered as being the best preserved Siberian mammoth to be discovered so far. In 2019, Japanese researchers who were working with the mammoth's tissue stated that they were able to animate some nucleus-like structures to carry out further biological investigations. Number 5. The Thing. A mysterious football-sized fossil found in Antarctica left everyone, including researchers, scientists, and other experts, scratching their heads. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Sitting in a Chilean museum, it awaited an expert who could finally recognize what it was. Nicknamed The Thing, its mystery was finally solved in 2020. After a thorough analysis, it was determined that it wasn't a mini monster or an unknown beast. Instead, it turns out that the thing is actually a soft-shelled egg that was laid 68 million years ago. Scientists are speculating that it might have been the egg of an extinct species of lizard or snake. With a football-sized egg, it's safe to assume that the extinct species of lizard or snake would have been a pretty incredible size. According to the findings of the research, such soft-shelled eggs are extremely rare to find in fossilized form, and combined with its almost pristine preservation, the egg is one of the rarest things researchers have come across. It is also the largest egg of its kind that has ever been discovered. The researchers also said that they didn't know that these eggs could be of such enormous size. They feel it can be a rare glimpse into the reproductive tactics of the animals of its period. The thing was first discovered in 2011 by a team of scientists from Chile who were working in Antarctica. It looked something like a crumpled baked potato and measured approximately 11 by 7 inches. It left the experts baffled. For years, scientists examined the fossil and tried to find similarities with other prehistoric species. It was only in 2018 that a paleontologist speculated that the thing might be an egg. That's when the research moved in the right direction, and now we finally have an answer. What do you think could have been hatched from a prehistoric egg the size of a football? A giant snake? A car-sized turtle? Some kind of undiscovered dinosaur? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest videos. Number 4. Mystery Bones. The history of humans is ever evolving. The more we unearth, the more we learn. With discoveries of ancient remains, we are getting closer and closer to learning about our origins. Sometimes it simplifies the story as we know it, and sometimes things might just get more complicated. In June 2021, researchers unearthed fossilized ancient bones from a sinkhole in Israel. These were human bones. Well, at least they were somewhat human. These remains had features consistent with both Neanderthals and early humans, making them likely to fit in somewhere in between both species. That means these mystery bones may belong to a group of humans that scientists were previously unaware of. It's believed that this extinct group of humans lived in the area of over 100,000 years ago. The sinkhole where these remains were found was filled in during the time of the excavation, of course, but researchers think that in the past, the hole was filled with water, which must have attracted animals. The animals in turn attracted hunters belonging to this extinct human species, and under some circumstances, the hunters then died at the sinkhole's location. Tools and weapons were also found at the site, which further cements this theory. Number 3. The mermaid. Mermaids have long been a part of fairy tales and folklore. They have been described as beautiful, alluring creatures in mythologies, while in others, these mythical beings have been feared for their dark side, pulling or luring people to their deaths. But no matter the culture, mermaids are mythical, imaginary, and a part of stories. However, the ancient Ryuguji temple in Japan has had possession of the bones of this mythical being and has them on display. Confused? According to a Japanese legend, in the early 13th century, a mermaid washed up on the shores of Hakata Bay in Kyushu. It was declared a good omen, and the mermaid was buried at the underwater palace of the dragon god. 800 years later, the bones of the mermaid were dug up, and those remains are on display even today at the Ryuguji Temple in Fukuoka. Some experts postulated that the bones could likely have been those of a dugong. Dugongs are vaguely human-shaped, flesh-tinted marine animals and have historically been confused with mermaids. However, here's the catch. The bones at the temple are not similar to the dugong. Over the years, many have suggested that the mermaid could actually be a porpoise. The Indo-Pacific finless porpoise is found near the area, and it is highly possible that one could have been washed ashore. But according to Dr. Daryl Domning of Howard University, who is a specialist in Sirenian paleontology, the bones at the Ryuguji temple do not belong to any marine mammal. He believes that the bones actually belong to land animals. The information given at the temple's main hall leaves some room for analysis about the bones as well, and supports Dr. Domning's theory. The details say that the remains are thought to be from a mermaid excavated near the site, but it also says that all of the bones are considered to be from some mammals. It is very much possible that the mermaid's bones are actually a collection of bones from different animals. So do mermaids actually exist? We'll leave that to your imagination. Number 2. Siberian Unicorn. Unicorns, one of the premier mythical creatures, may not be in fact so mythical after all. Unicorns are in fact real. Perhaps not, however, in the way that your inner child is picturing. We all have been fed the pure, pristine image of a beautiful white unicorn, gleaming with magical powers, surrounded by rainbows and crying healing tears. The real image, however, couldn't be any further from the myth. Unicorns existed 350,000 years ago, and much like the animals alive in that time, they were big, burly, and hardly resembled the elegant creatures of story and song. According to research in 2016, the Siberian unicorns that actually roamed our planet were fatter and furrier than the image we have grown to know and love. These unicorns weren't like horses, but were more like rhinos. We guess the huge horn is the only similarity though. The species was thought to have gone extinct 350,000 years ago, but a recent, well-preserved fossilized skull discovered in Kazakhstan revealed that the animal may have still been around as recently as 29,000 years ago. The animals had migrated to western Siberia, where they are presumed to have survived for some time. Although the Siberian unicorn eventually went extinct, the animal whose skull was found survived the longest. Number 1. Abominable Footprint. In 1951, explorer Eric Shipton from Britain was looking for an alternate route to Mount Everest. In his search, he stumbled across something that changed his life and sent the whole world into a frenzy. A footprint was the source of all this chaos, but not just any footprint. This was a 13-inch long footprint leading to the mystery that we know as the Yeti. The Yeti still hasn't been found. Its enormous footprints are the only evidence of its existence we know of. A photo of the footprint was circulated around the world and gave rise to a wave of new explorers who were eager to find the mysterious mountain-dwelling creature known as the Yeti. The footprint was found on the Menlung Glacier, which is located on the west side of Mount Everest. It falls on the Nepal-Tibet border. Hoaxes and fake stories were prevalent during the period, but people believed Shipton because he was one of the most respected Everest explorers of the time. Yeti's case is different because the footprint was imprinted on stone or embossed on the soil. It was fresh and sharp, so sharp that even the camera captured it well. The snow at that altitude was hard, so it almost appeared as if someone had stepped on the plaster of Paris. The prints looked very similar to human ones, but the thumb gave it the appearance of some kind of primate. It could have been an animal or a completely new species of human being with feet much larger than normal humans. The next few years saw hordes of explorers skimming through the high altitudes in hopes of finding a glimpse of the Yeti, but no one got close. Did it really exist, or was it a case of mistaken footprint? We'll never know.
Number 10. Nasca Lines. The Nasca Lines have been a subject of mystery for almost 100 years now. You can find the lines only 200 miles away from Lima, Peru, a popular tourist attraction now. These are not just your average lines in the sand. This desert features 300 geometric figures and 70 animal and plant designs. Some of the lines stretch even as long as 30 miles, and the designs are as big as 50 to 120 feet. Even if you cross one of these lines at Nasca, you wouldn't be able to tell what shape it creates. This is the main reason why the lines have remained hidden in plain sight for so long. The shapes are not recognizable from eye level and can only be seen from a plane's point of view. Now, with drones becoming more and more common, newer shapes have also been discovered. But with this discovery came an even bigger question. What purpose did the Nasca lines serve? For many decades, it was believed the lines were used as astronomical calendars. The sand in the desert is a deep rust color due to oxidation, so when you remove the top 12 to 15 inches, you can find light-colored soil. That's how the Nasca people made all these designs. Since the area receives very scarce rainfall, the lines made back in AD 700 are in fairly good condition, even today. Recent discoveries indicate that the lines were with the purpose of asking the gods for water and fertility in the desert area, while some others might have been used to mark territories. But even now, researchers are still assuming the use of these lines and how the makers made such intricate designs at large scales. Perhaps they were made by someone out of this world? Number 9. Chatchabib. The Nasca lines aren't the only ones of their kind baffling archaeologists. A new map of an ancient wall across Jordan has left many puzzled over who built it and why. The wall that extends over 93 miles is called Chatchabib and was first discovered in 1948 by Sir Alec Kirkbride, a British diplomat. Much like the Nasca lines, even Chatchabib was discovered from an airplane. Kirkbride described what he saw as a stone wall running for no obvious purpose across the country, and thus the mystery of the wall began. Researchers have been using aerial photography to determine the remnants of the wall. So far, some sections have been found where the two walls run side by side, and other sections where the wall begins to branch off, though the wall is in ruins now. Even if it was in pristine condition, it wouldn't have been taller than 3.3 feet. Along the Chatchabib, the archaeologists also found the remains of an estimated 100 so-called towers, measuring 2 to 4 meters in diameter. The towers might have been used as a secure place to sleep overnight or as watch posts. Some maybe were places where hunters could hide. The low height and narrow width proved that the wall wasn't meant for defense. The pottery found at the towers has given scientists a timeline of 312 BC to 106 AD. Many believe that the wall wasn't the work of a large kingdom, but of local communities living there. If it is true then the Kat Shabib is probably one of those rare monuments that document the skill and creativity of smaller communities rather than large royal empires. Number 8. Secret caves under Giza pyramids. The pyramids of Giza have become synonymous with the lost world of Egyptian royals, but what lies beneath the pyramids is even more intriguing. An incredible maze of twisting tunnels, open rooms, and caves lies underneath one of the Earth's greatest wonders, according to the writings of a British explorer. The caves are not filled with hidden treasures and riches, but with bats and venomous spiders. So it's better to drop any plans of exploring the caves yourself. The underground complex was found in the limestone bedrock beneath the pyramid field at Giza. According to the British explorer Andrew Collins, the cave consists of untouched archaeology. He discovered the cave's entrance after reading through an old diplomat's memoirs from the 1800s. Doesn't this sound like the plot of an adventure movie? Well, fiction is based in truth. The diplomat was a British consul general named Henry Salt. In his memoirs, he wrote about how he investigated an underground system of catacombs at Giza in 1817 in the company of Italian explorer Giovanni Caviglia. The entrance was through a crack in an unrecorded tomb west of the Great Pyramid. Collins explored the cave system as much as he could before the air became too thin to continue. Egyptian authorities are unwilling to share what has been discovered beneath Giza with the general public, which piques curiosity even more. Many believe that the cave system was an underground city and still houses many ancient relics. Collins believes that the planning and development of the pyramids might have been done from there. We might never know. What do you think these tunnels were used for? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you liked the video so far, be sure to subscribe. Number 7. Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, Malta. If you ever plan a Mediterranean holiday to Malta, don't skip out on this ancient underground cemetery. Visiting ancient graves might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you don't want to miss this incredible historical wonder. The Hypogeum was built in 3600 BC by the Greeks, using only flint and stone tools. There are 3 levels carved in stone. It was discovered back in 1902, when masons uncovered an opening to the chamber while laying the foundation for a house. It took 80 years to restore the site, and now only 80 tourists are allowed to enter the fragile monument in a day to preserve its integrity. A few bones are left at the site, along with a number of small altars with offerings, such as carved animals, beads, and other sculptures that earlier Maltese residents must have left behind after visiting the loved ones' graves. Almost 7,000 bodies were once buried there. Other than the chambers for the dead, the site also has many interesting rooms. There is one main chamber with rock carved into rectangles and curves, similar to what you'd find at a Greek temple. It may have been a room for exhibiting statues or for storing the dead until they could be buried in other locations. The site also has an oracle room with ceilings that feature red ochre designs, resembling the Tree of Life pattern. With so many intricate details, it's a wonder how the Greeks were able to create such a site with the limited tool capabilities. Number 6. Catalhoyuk, Turkey. Human beings evolved a lot over the years, from the way we look to the way we live. But Catalhoyuk gives us a glimpse into how it all began. Almost 9,000 years ago, human beings from the Stone Age decided to settle down and build homes on the bank of a now dried up river. The homes were built back to back, without any doors or windows. So how did they go in and out of the homes, you might be wondering? It's pretty simple. The doors were made on the roofs of the homes. After being discovered, the interiors of the homes still had some wall paintings and figurines left. We're guessing humans have always been into home decor. After being hidden for millennia, 60 years ago, a team of archaeologists began exploring 2 small hills on the Konya Plain. Since then, the site has become one of the most important early human settlements to have ever been recorded. The settlement gives us a glimpse into the beginnings of agriculture as we know it. The homes also served as graves, as the residents were found buried under their homes. The oven and hearth were placed right below the entrance, which also served as a vent for smoke. Residents cooked food in this part of the main room. Newborns and children who died were also buried under the hearth. Number 5. Puma Punku, Bolivia. Puma Punku is a large temple complex situated near Tiwanaku in Bolivia. Though the origin of the temple is still a mystery, archaeologists believe the complex may have been built by the Tiwanaku Empire between 300 and 1000 AD. The most intriguing thing about Puma Punku is not its mysterious origins, But it's even more brilliant stonework. The terraced earthen mound was initially faced with megalithic blocks, each weighing several tens of tons. The red sandstones were cut in such a way that they perfectly interlocked together. The technique and precision used to build the monument leaves visitors astounded. The rocks are so perfectly placed together that you can't even slide a razor blade in between them. It is so precisely made that it's hard to believe the temple was constructed thousands of years ago without the help of any machines. Back then, human beings hadn't even invented the wheel. The stones weigh as much as 131 tons, and some are even 25.6 feet long. The precision of each block and the angle at which they were cut indicates mass production took place. But could it even been possible back then? The sandstones were brought up a steep incline from a quarry near Lake Titicaca, almost 10 kilometers away. How did they transport it? The craftsmanship, materials, and techniques used to build Puma Punku all point towards a much more advanced civilization than we could ever imagine. Number 4. Meisho. Meisho is a prehistoric chambered cairn in the UK. This ancient site is surrounded by a ditch, and radiocarbon dating indicates it was built thousands of years ago in 2700 BC. At first glance, you would just dismiss it as a mound of soil and grass, but what lies beneath will knock your socks off. The site was discovered in 1861. Before the discovery, Meisho was once conical, with a deep depression in the top. It had a diameter of around 100 feet and stood 36 feet high. After its discovery, the cairn was cared for by the government, and an outer mound was created with a concrete roof to protect what lies below. Researchers believed that the mound sat on top of a Neolithic house. In 1996, a socket hole on a platform was found on one end of the mound, and it added more weight to the theory. Archaeologists also believe that the ditch around Meisho was supposed to be filled with water to separate the living from the dead, like the entrance to another world. But the most baffling discovery so far has been the midwinter alignment. For a few days each year, as the midwinter sun sets for the day, its last rays shine through Meisho's entranceway and illuminate the wall of the central chamber. Was it a planned part of Meisho's construction, or a beautiful accident? We'll never know the truth. Number 3. Easter Island. Easter Island is a Chilean island in the southern Pacific Ocean, known for its stonehead statues called moai. The statues have baffled archaeologists for hundreds of years. Who built them, and how did they place such huge statues around the island, or get them there in the first place? Years later, finally, researchers seem to have the answers to a few of these questions. After analyzing the numerous locations of these statues and their megalithic platforms called ahu, researchers have found a common link. Apparently, the statues are placed near sources of fresh water. Researchers also believe that the size and quality of these statues gave the inhabitants of the island an idea about how good the quality of the resource was. There are over 300 such statues around the sparsely populated island. The first cluster of these statues was made back in the 13th century. Before this recent discovery, it was believed the statues denoted the ancestors of the islanders. Though the theory might still hold true, the location of the statues was a big question mark. The huge breakthrough came when researchers realized that there were no rivers or streams on the island, so the inhabitants had to get the water from somewhere. After investigating each ahu location, they figured out that the island had aquifers. To make things easier for themselves, the islanders had placed these statues to mark the aquifers. But the mystery of how the statues were created still remains. Number 2. Por-Bajin. An ancient monument on a small island in Lake Tarakol in Siberia has been the source of mystery for many years. The ruins of the site gave away very little information on when it was and why it was built. Was it a fortress or a palace? Researchers didn't have a definite answer to these questions for a long time. But a tree used in the foundation of the monument gave away its secrets. In 2012, a team of Japanese researchers found there were spikes of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere back in 775 AD and 995 AD. The carbon in the air was soaked up by the trees around the globe at the time, and after carbon dating the wood used in the construction of Por-Bajin, it was found that the monument was built around 777 AD. With this information, the mystery was solved because historical records could tell the rest of the story. A ruler of the Uyghur kingdom had converted to Manichaeism, agnostic faith, and made it the state religion. Many of his state subjects were unhappy with the imposition of the new religion. So, 2 years after the foundation of Por-Bajin was laid, the ruler was murdered. But what purpose did Por-Bajin really serve? It was not a palace, nor a fortress. It was a monastery, built to practice Manichaeism. Since the ruler was murdered, the monument was never used. Number 1. Underwater pyramids in Portugal. The lost city of Atlantis has been the focal point of many movies and books, but a recent discovery by a Portuguese fisherman might prove that it really existed. You may have already heard the myth of how Atlantis sunk to the bottom of the sea after falling out with the gods. Since then, Atlantis has always been treated as a mythical place, but this discovery might prove that it actually existed. A local sailor in Portugal's Azores Island was looking for good fishing grounds when his digital scanning devices caught a glimpse of the hidden pyramid. Soon after that, Navy crews were called in to inspect it. The pyramid was located in an area of the Atlantic Ocean that had been covered by water for nearly 20,000 years. The last great ice age of the Northern Hemisphere started 2,000 years before that. Researchers believe that whoever built the pyramid must have lived before the ice age happened. The pyramid is around 60 meters high and has a base of 8,000 square meters. Archaeologists in Portugal have found proof that indicates humans lived on the Azores Island even before the Portuguese discovered them back in 1427. It also coincides with the idea that there existed an ancient civilization that built the pyramid even before the Ice Age.
Number 8. Oymyakon, Russia. It might not surprise you that one of the coldest places in the world is in Siberia, but the little Russian town is so cold that its residents have had to come up with unique ways of dealing with the frigid temperatures. The farming community of Oymyakon is in eastern Siberia, and its location could be the very reason why it's so cold there. Located in an area that stretches from the Ural Mountains to the Pacific and bordering the Arctic Ocean, China, North Korea, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan, Oymyakon's mountains and peninsulas help to make it bone-chillingly cold. It's also located on the banks of the Indigirka River, which is made entirely of permafrost. That's right, the ground there is permanently frozen and covered with snow and ice all year round. In fact, Siberia takes up 76% of the surface of Russia. No wonder the country has such a chilly reputation. If you're not a fan of such conditions, you might want to visit somewhere more tropical. The winters there last 9 months and the climate is harsh. Even in the summer months, the extreme subpolar conditions only get up to a shocking negative 59 degrees Celsius. Still, even with these crazy conditions, just under 500,000 people call the area home. They also have some strict rules about going outside. When the temperature goes below negative 52 degrees Celsius, kids are kept home from school to avoid the risk of frostbite. But believe it or not, there are still some fun things to do in Oymyakon. Reindeer and cow herding are staples in the small town. And they also host the Cold Pole Festival every winter, with reindeer races, dog sledding, and ice fishing. But be prepared for rustic conditions if you happen to go there. With such cold temperatures, many of the houses don't have plumbing to avoid frozen pipes. Maybe life in Oymyakon isn't so bad if you have the right winter gear. But be warned, this town that lies just 450 kilometers from the Arctic Circle is a chilly one, to say the least. Number 7. Astana, Kazakhstan. Blame it on the endlessly vast landscape of Astana, Kazakhstan for its frigid temperatures. Surrounded on all sides by desert as far as the eye can see, and with hardly any trees, it's no wonder the city saw a record low 32 degrees Celsius in its capital city one November. The cold snap forced schools to close for almost a week, and its 750,000 residents had to retreat inside until the aggressively cold weather passed. The cold spell made it the second coldest capital city in the world after Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, but it wasn't all that bad. Astana is known for its wildly futuristic metal and glass buildings, including a glass pyramid, a building that looks as though the White House was plunked down in the middle of Disney World, and even a tower shaped like a vase with a ball at the very top. It got its wealth from oil production, and the Soviets have used it to test vehicles used in their space program. They've also tested nuclear weapons there, making much of the vast desert radioactive. It didn't always have a futuristic look though, and it wasn't always called Astana. In 1997, the capital city was moved to what was once called Akmola, an empty patch of land on the Ishim River. That's when developers came up with a master plan for the futuristic city, renaming it Astana. Even with its strange beginnings, the city looks like the picture-perfect winter wonderland, with the trees covered in frost and snow, and the frozen river the perfect fairy tale getaway. Just make sure you bundle up first. Number 6. Klink Weather Station, Greenland. Looking to take a break from the summer heat? Take a trip to the North Pole where the coldest spot in the Arctic can be found. At the Klink Weather Station, the temperature was recorded at negative 69.6 degrees Celsius on December 22, 1991, 0.8 degrees Celsius below the previous record. The weather station that recorded this low temperature was part of a measurement network operated by the University of Wisconsin in Greenland in the early 1990s. If you thought that's bad, imagine being part of the team who had to travel by snowmobile to install the automatic weather stations used to track the frigid temperatures. Have you ever been to Greenland? What did you think about it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Wondering why it's so cold there? Chalk it up to the dry, cold continental climate in the middle of the Greenland ice sheet. The coldest spot is in the middle of the mainland. Located at 3,105 meters above sea level, the station overtook the top spot for the coldest place on Earth from the Russian towns of Verkhoyansk and Oymyakon. Getting the reading to verify the station's status as the coldest place on Earth took some work though. The initial researchers who took part in the study had to be tracked down so they could verify their date. After checking the information and making sure the probes were calibrated properly to measure the temperatures, the World Meteorological Organization verified the readings. After doing so, the Klink Weather Station was once again crowned the winner of the official cold record. Number 5. East Antarctica Plateau. Wondering how to earn the reputation as one of the coldest places anywhere on Earth? It takes the perfect combination of clear skies and dry air to get the temperature so low. In several spots of the East Antarctic Plateau, the conditions were perfect for two research scientists from the University of Colorado to record the coldest temperatures on Earth. In 2013, Dr. Ted Scambos and his colleagues analyzed data from several Earth-observing satellites to find that temperatures on the East Antarctic Plateau were colder than those recorded at Vostok Station, a Russian weather station in central Antarctica. They found that nearly 100 other sites also reached surface temperatures of minus 98 degrees Celsius. Even though the recordings were taken from places hundreds of kilometers apart on the windswept landscape, the lowest temperatures were all mostly the same. Using special instruments to measure snow and air temperatures in the very coldest places through the winter, scientists figured out that the dry air traps some of the heat from the sun and sends it back to the surface, which means the land cools a lot slower and the trapped water vapor blocks the loss of heat on the surface. Being at such a high elevation and so close to the South Pole, the East Antarctic Plateau shows exactly why it's one of the coldest regions on Earth. Number 4. Snag, Yukon. Wondering what it's like to step outside on the coldest day of the year in Canada? Well, local residents of Snag, Yukon territories found out pretty quickly, and they were stunned by what happened. When a particularly nasty deep freeze blew into the region, residents found that just exhaling made the air hiss and freeze with each breath. The record low came in 1947, when frigid air from Siberia blanketed the area, and the thermometer dropped to minus 63 degrees Celsius, creating a risk for frostbite, hypothermia, and death for 16 men at the local weather station on February 3, 1947. It also ended up being the coldest day in Canadian history. Snag is located about 465 kilometers northwest of Whitehorse. It was first settled during the Klondike Gold Rush. Some think the small community got its name from members of the U.S. Geological Survey who visited the area in 1898, who were inspired by the dead trees that seemed to choke the area. But hissing breath isn't the only strange thing to happen in the remote location. The rapid temperature drop makes sound waves bend back toward the ground instead of escaping upwards. That means residents can hear conversations more than 6 kilometers away. Not such a great thing if you happen to be gossiping about your fellow neighbors. Number 3. Lake Vostok. Lake Vostok in eastern Antarctica is a picturesque place if you don't mind a wide expanse of snow as far as the eye can see. 150 miles long and 31 miles across, it sits beneath 2.5 miles of solid ice close to the center of East Antarctica and became known as having the coldest temperature ever measured on Earth's surface. It's hard to reach, but its sediments contain a unique record of Antarctica's climate before the ice caps arrived, which has made it a hit spot for researchers looking to record what prehistoric life was like in Lake Vostok. Scientists discovered Vostok's existence 30 years ago, when radar and seismographs allowed them to piece together a map. Researchers from America, Britain, Europe, New Zealand, and Russia want to explore Lake Vostok's depths with robots. The exploration could begin in less than 5 years, but some think it could change the lake forever and destroy what has made it unique. Some believe Vostok should be left alone, but scientists believe Vostok's life forms could provide new insights into the young Earth's spectacular ecological crises and illuminate the possibilities of life farther off, in a vast ocean in Europa 483 million miles from the Sun. NASA is one group with an interest in Lake Vostok, and they've been adapting instruments first developed to explore hot depths of ocean floor volcanic vents for use in the isolated waters of Vostok. The engineers are also trying to come up with a way for the probe to see beneath the surface using deep water cameras that can operate in conditions of extreme pressure and cold. The ice beneath Vostok Station is like opening a history book, with each core a vertical record of conditions at a particular point in time. Scientists started drilling into this record in the 1970s, and in 1995, a workshop was held to decide if continued drilling made sense. Glaciologists wanted to drill down to the lake to get a long-term climate record, but the rest of the Antarctic science community was concerned that drilling down to the lake would damage the biology trapped there. They went ahead with the project, drilling a borehole into an ice sheet so they could take samples of this refrozen water. They found some of the bacteria were still able to function, and they're part of a viable ecosystem indigenous to the lake. With the debate still raging over whether the risk of drilling beneath the ice sheet is worth the reward, only time will tell before all of Lake Vostok's secrets will be revealed. Number 2. Mongolia. Mongolian winters aren't really a walk in the park, but if you're an adventurer at heart, then you'll be happy to know that this country is a beauty to behold, even in its harsh, frozen state. Mongolia's climate is unbelievably hard to predict and erratic. It has long frigid winters where the temperatures can reach -50 degrees Celsius and short, relatively warm summers where the minimum temperature at night easily drops below -35 degrees Celsius. Mongolia is landlocked between middle latitudes with high altitudes between 3,300 to 4,900 feet. With below freezing temperatures and harsh climate conditions, even the livestock and other animals have a hard time keeping warm, and many freeze to death despite their owners working hard to keep them alive. But life there isn't all that bad. Mongolians take advantage of the cold weather with festivities during the winter season, including dog sledding, where visitors can cross frozen lakes and rivers. They also have a winter ice festival in Kovsgol Lake with an international skating marathon, horse sleigh races, and a local competition of sumo. Another popular spot is Gorky Terij National Park, where you can catch a breathtaking glimpse of its granite stone mountains towering out of the snow-covered valleys. And if you want to experience the Mongolian camel culture and get to know the herders' cultural heritage, you can head to the Camel Festival in Buglan Village. Sure, being one of the coldest places on Earth has its challenges, but Mongolians are a prime example of people who make the best of their situation. Number 1. Eureka Nunavut. Have you ever heard of Eureka Nunavut? It's a research base that sits well above the Arctic Circle in Canada, a place with the lowest annual temperature of any Canadian weather station or settlement. The only way for the staff at the weather station to stay warm is to don a heavy parka, fur hat, face mask, and a pair of massive boots. In fact, it's so cold that they can only make the rounds to do their hourly weather observation for 5 minutes at a time, or else they risk getting severe frostbite. For the rotating staff of 8, life is tough. They rotate and receive supplies by air roughly once every 3 weeks. The station is on Ellesmere Island on the 80th parallel, one that receives no sunlight for 4 months of the year, a place where the only human company comes in the form of a small handful of their fellow researchers, and where temperatures regularly approach minus 40 degrees Celsius, and that's before wind chill. As the third northernmost permanent research community on the planet and the second northernmost in Canada after Alert Nunavut, which is also on Ellesmere Island, the station is also plunged into total darkness between mid-October and late February. The workers at the weather station must really love their jobs, huh? Thanks for watching. Which one of these coldest places on Earth fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!